Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to another video. I'm sorry about not uploading as much as I normally do. I was trying to finish off the half semester of school, in which I did very well. So without rambling on, let's get on with the video. I wanted to test out how well does Sonic 4 Episode 2's online multiplayer hold up in 2020. I want to give a huge shout out to a new friend, Momentum, who this video would not be possible without. So thank you so much. A link to Momentum's Twitter and YouTube will be in the description below. Make sure to go check him out. So when we started this run, me and Momentum had decided to play the whole game. So of course let's start off with Sylvania Castle Zone. Overall, the connection between me and Momentum was pretty good, so that was a plus. And there wasn't that much lag. During this run, I chose to play as Tails, as you normally always have to play as Sonic. Going through the first level was a breeze. There wasn't that much to worry about, and jumping over obstacles was easy. Now the second act was a little more difficult, as it had to deal with Momentum relying on me to make sure I made Sonic swim of sorts, with Tails holding him. Act 3 started off with a little water section where Momentum actually didn't immediate progress, though there was a lot of platforming, including Sonic's homing attack and etc. Now for the boss, there wasn't really too much I can say. Me and Momentum got through it pretty quickly, and it wasn't really that hard, to be honest. The only downside, we did die once due to the fact we lost all of our rings, so that was quite tragic. Overall though, through the power of me and Momentum's teamwork, we did defeat the boss on our second try without losing our rings this time, so that was a pretty easy dub, and you can see we're clearly showing off our victory by spin dashing from side to side, spamming all the buttons. And there's Momentum looking up and down, so let's move on to the next zone. Moving on to the next zone, it wasn't that hard honestly. Me and Momentum had been playing for like over an hour by now, so right now we were pretty much used to the controls, and all we really had to do was just use our dash attack or whatever it's called, and we got through most of the level pretty quickly. Moving on to Act 2, it was more of a roller coaster, and here we had to be a little more careful as it was easy to get crushed in this level if you didn't know. And pretty much we sped through it really quickly. There were some times where we had some pretty close calls, but really we were fine and we were speeding through the level pretty quick. Now one downside I failed to mention earlier with Tails is that he's very floaty if you play with him. And the thing about him is that when you come back, if you get left behind, the game will force you to immediately come back to the player who's still not left behind. So right there, as you saw right there, Tails went up to Sonic or Momentum. When you jump, he immediately flies, and that's really annoying to me because sometimes I just want to jump and Tails will end up flying like right there as you saw. So that's one of the downsides to playing as Tails. Now I'm going to go ahead and skip Act 3 because it was kind of difficult within itself, and all you need to know really is that we died quite a lot and it was just a lot, so it was overall really a boring level. But here we got to one of the more interesting bosses, which was against Metal Sonic, which he returns from Sonic CD according to the timeline of the game. Now, obviously, me and Momentum had an easy job doing this. Now, it turns out, something we found out late into the fight was that if one of the player dies, let's say Momentum died and I was alive still, he could come back, but it would cost us one of our lives. So if we both died at the same time, for example, like we did in the boss, and it would actually count as 2 lives lost from our counter. So that was something we had to be aware of when we were fighting Metal Sonic here. In the end still though, me and Momentum easily defeated Metal Sonic, and it took only one of our lives, so I think it didn't really matter that much. So let's move on to Oil Desert Zone. Moving on to Oil Desert Zone, it actually wasn't that difficult. Normally I thought it would take longer because of the fact this is online co-op, and unfortunately Momentum couldn't do voice chat at the time while we were recording this, so I just decided to say screw it, and we were just going to play without voice chat. My initial intention was to play with voice chat to make it easier, but it's alright, and we did make it quite a lot through the level without too much of an issue. And overall it was pretty easy. Moving on to Act 2, however, it definitely showed an increase on difficulty a little bit, as we had to make sure that neither of us got left behind, because here we were needing Tails and Sonic to be a lot together a lot more. And this was probably also the slowest level we've been through due to the fact that there was a bunch of sand, which caused Sonic to go super slow, including that for Tails as well. And that made it super difficult for us to move through the game. And there was literally a point in the entire level where we were there for like freaking a minute and a half just watching Momentum jump up and down, because really it screwed us over, and we had to like watch him slowly hop because he had no rings and it could have killed us easily. Moving on to the boss of Oil Desert, it wasn't really that difficult. I found out that Tails is Tails, that's weird to say, could actually attack Dr. Eggman while his head was open. And multiple times, Momentum actually didn't really need to do anything. He just needed to dodge the box to not get hurt. Because like I said earlier during the Metal Sonic fight, we found out that his life, if he dies, it actually lowers down our life counter. So I did most of the work in this boss battle while Momentum here just dodged a lot. And he was kind of trolling, so... Now me and Momentum had to take on Sky Fortress Zone, which was the worst zone ever, and now I immediately hate it every time I ever hear of it, because I found it the hard way that because due to the fact I control Tails and Momentum controls Sonic, it's really easy for him to die, so not fun. And even though we took multiple attempts, we did eventually get past the level, but really, only Act 2 and 3 were fun, while everything that involved us being on a plane was very difficult, so this made the boss battle very difficult, which I'll get to later. This section right here that you see Momentum playing through is the worst part of the zone, or the act in my opinion, as it was really easy for him to die, as when we were fighting against Metal Sonic, as you can see Metal Sonic's in the back, they're sending enemies to go against the Momentum here, but you know, Momentum's easily dodging it, because he's GOAT, so... Again, shout out to you, bro. You're good at Sonic, no matter how bad the game is. As you can see here, he got through it pretty easily, and mainly the problem I could say was probably just the part right after that, where Metal Sonic showed up, and he would just ruin everything by shooting bullets. And this made it really easy for Momentum to get hurt. As you saw there, he lost all of his rings like almost instantly. And this made our life really easy, but I found out when you press C, or that's the keybind I used to call Sonic for like assistance or whatever, I found out that we could actually call him back to the plane, so that was a new thing we could do. However, me and Momentum easily completed Act 1, even though it took a couple of tries. Skipping Acts 1 and 2, the final boss, or the boss for Sky Fortress, is probably one of the hardest bosses, and sure, it's a dragon one-player mode, but it's literally next to impossible with co-op, because multiple times when Momentum hits Metal Sonic when he needs to, he easily gets a bounce and falls off the plane and dies instantly. It's super annoying, and this eventually led us to getting a game over. It took us our second try after a game over to complete the boss, and this is why we had to suffer a lot, and this is probably why the run took a lot longer than it should have. Moving on to Death Egg Zone, it was pretty easy. It was just some basic maneuvering between us working together to move on through the level. Overall, it wasn't really that difficult, but we did eventually have to get to the Metal Sonic fight, which again was super easy. We didn't have that too much of an issue with Act 1 of the Death Egg Zone Mark II. I would like to say that the Metal Sonic fight was a little bit easy, but we did end up dying once due to the fact that we fell down to a crushing wall. But on our second attempt, we did turn into a ball attack, which is what we do when we're on the ground, and just use our combine attack, as you can see. And that allowed us to beat Metal Sonic in the race, and we easily won, moving on to Act 2. Going on to the final boss, most people might think this is kind of ironic, but me and Momentum actually found this to be the easiest level than all the other ones. I could say that the hardest zone that we had to play was the Sky Fortress Zone boss, which took multiple tries, as I said before. And obviously, we wasted a lot of our lives here because we constantly died, and that made our lives a lot harder than it probably should have been. Here, as you can see, Momentum summoned me, and we broke Dr. Eggman's shield, and this allowed us to easily defeat the final boss of the game, thus allowing us to beat Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2. Overall, I had a really good time playing this game again, which I grew up with along with Momentum over here. So again, huge shout out to Momentum for helping me out with this video and helping me suffer through this horrible game. But if you guys enjoy content like this, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Discord in the link down below. And please go check out Momentum. He's an amazing Sonic, everything. He loves Sonic. And yeah, he's overall a great guy. Go check out his stuff. Link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.